Heroine's Beginning, Chapter 11. The only topic of conversation that night was the upcoming ball. All of my siblings seemed obsessed with it. Clara thought it was very unfair that she was too young to go. She thought that 14 years old should count as an adult. The little ones started to play at going to the ball when it was time to sit down for dinner. Gwen and Robbie began to jump around the room, while Richard sang a song under his breath. When I eventually got them to sit down, they started asking me if I was going to go. Alexander spluttered at this, spraying soup everywhere. That at least distracted them for a moment. I knew there was no chance of me going, and Alexander clearly agreed with me. But that night, as I lay in bed awake, my mind kept drifting to the ball. I had never been to one, or in fact any large event similar to it. The closest thing I had attended was the village May Day celebration every year, which had a little dancing. The traveling fair would arrive in the village around that time every year and would lead it. There would be a caller at the front of the group who would explain the dance step by step, and then when the music began, would continue shouting instructions at us. It was great fun, and something nearly always went wrong. The children would run around, trying to get at the food before it was served, desperate to get to the cakes. The girls would wear flowers in their hair, given to them by their beaux. This meant that every year I attended, I did not wear flowers. I had never had a beau. I was always too busy working or looking after my siblings to notice any boys. I had always secretly imagined what it would be like when I did meet one. All the books I had read always mentioned a rush of affection that would surge my body the moment I laid eyes on him. I would know instantly when I met him. There would be no doubt he was the only one for me. I knew these were just dreams, and reality would be nothing like this, but I could hope. I also knew enough of life to know that even if we did find each other, it would not be a smooth and easy ride afterward. There would be ups and downs, struggles and triumphs. I kept thinking back to Maid Marion from the Robin Hood book. She knew she was in love with Robin, and they could not be together without giving up her chance at helping to improve everyone else's lives. So she fought for it. She was confident, outspoken, and even a little bit flirtatious, and knew exactly how to get what she wanted, and she was clever about it. Her ups and downs were a little more extreme than everyone else's, but that didn't make them less valid. Maid Marion had attended a few balls throughout the course of the story, but since it was set several hundred years ago, the balls they went to were of a slightly different nature. She had danced and flirted with the men there, usually to keep them off the scent that Robin was in the castle. I decided when I first read the book several years ago, if I ever had the opportunity to behave the way she did, I would take it. I fell asleep, but even my dreams were taken over by thoughts of the ball. I was standing in the middle of the room, wrapped in a beautiful silk dress, bright red in color. I had mountains of petticoats under my skirt, which made it keep its shape. I swirled and twirled around the room, dancing from one partner to another. The music swelled around me, and I instinctively knew all the steps. I did not think, I only moved. My partners were faceless, but they danced wonderfully. It is the way of dreams that there is no way to tell how long had passed. I was lost in the sensation, my dress swirling around my legs, my chest rising and falling, and the feel of my partner's hand in mine. Waking the next morning was a sorry disappointment after a lovely dream. I had to put it out of my mind and get down to work. There were 9 people to make breakfast for, so I reluctantly rolled out of bed and set to work. A week later, most of the fever for the ball in the village had died down, as no one from the village was planning to attend. So as usual, I visited Mother's grave and slowly walked back toward the village, waiting for Ella. When she didn't show, I continued down the path. There had been several times in the past when she hadn't been able to make it to meet me, due to a certain 2 ladies. I was shocked to discover that when I walked into the marketplace, I found Ella already there, on top of a cart. There was a flock of young girls standing around her. She looked up and saw me, beaming. I made my way towards her, very confused. "Marion, can you help me?" she shouted at me. I nodded and climbed onto the cart. Ella was trying to drag a large wooden trunk. I bent down and tried to lift it from the other side. After a lot of struggling, we got it down from the back of the cart. "What on earth is in here?" I asked her. "These," she said, unlatching the top. The top of the trunk was pushed back to reveal several fine dresses. Ella started pulling them out and held one up to a girl standing nearby. "Here, this one will suit you," she said, smiling at the girl. The girl thanked her. "Where did you get these?" I asked her in shock. There must have been at least 20 dresses in there. She continued pulling them out and handing them around. "Help me, would you?" she said. I began handing out dresses, each a different color of the rainbow. There were silk, chiffon, organza, and velvet dresses. Ella explained. When Lady Anna heard about the ball, she instantly started going through her wardrobe, deciding what to wear. This then led to her throwing out all of her old dresses that were too unfashionable and she wouldn't be caught dead in. She told me to throw all of these out, but I thought there was no reason not to give them all to you instead. "But why?" I asked. "You said the only thing stopping you from going to the ball was that you couldn't afford a dress. Now you have one," Ella said, reaching down and pulling out a dress at the bottom of the trunk. It was a beautiful emerald green color, the color of summer leaves. It was a simple design, pulled in at the waist, and the sleeves went to the elbows. A silver ribbon lined the square neckline and ran down the split of the silk overskirt, revealing a white chiffon underlayer. A silver sash went around the waist, and it was knotted into an elegant bow at the back of the dress. The cuffs were small, but made of intricate lace. I had never seen a more beautiful dress in my life. Ella handed the dress to me, the light reflecting off the silk, making it almost shimmer. I took it in my hand carefully. Upon closer inspection, I noticed many tiny pinpricks in the silk, and realized I had seen this dress before. Lady Anna had worn it when the family had attended the springtime celebration a few months ago. Maybe attending was the wrong word to use. They had been overseeing it. They did not participate in anything. I did not recognize the dress at first. When Lady Anna wore it, it was covered with frills and lace. I had honestly thought it was the most hideous monstrosity. Now that Ella had taken all the extra fabric off, the dress was gorgeous. I was lost for words. Ella smiled at me again. "Thank you," I managed to stumble out. "This is amazing." "No need to thank me," she said. "You would be doing me a favor by taking these off my hands." I placed the dress down and pulled Ella into an embrace. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," I exclaimed. When we parted, I looked at her questioningly. "So if you're giving us these dresses, does that mean you're planning to attend as well?" "Yes, I think I am," she replied. I opened my mother's trunk and found a dress that I could adjust to fit me. I remember her wearing it, and as long as I do all the chores that day, I don't see any reason why Lady Kingston should stop me from going. We continued to hand out dresses to the other girls. "Good for you," I said. "You deserve to go, much more than Lady Idiot up there. She is currently obsessing over the Duke's son. She's never met him before in her life, but seems intent on marrying him. Oh, what I wouldn't give to see someone snatch him away from under her nose," I laughed. "Did you ever meet him, when your parents went to parties? He must be around our age." "No, I was always too young to go. Mother spoke of a boy at the Duke's parties. She said he was very polite and charming, even for a child," Ella replied. "Maybe he's turned into a charming young man," I teased her. Ella began to blush, and she averted her eyes to stare at the floor. I was confused about this, and narrowed my eyes to look at her. "What's this about?" I asked, raising my voice a little. "I just met a charming young man," she said quietly. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. "Ella, who is he?" "I don't know," she admitted. "My cart got stuck in the ditch on the way here, and I couldn't move it. This young man turned up and offered to help. He was really lovely and charming." "And handsome?" I finished. Ella blushed even redder than before. "So he was handsome?" I inquired. When she didn't reply, I guessed that meant yes. "Are you going to see him again? Where does he live? What's his name?" I couldn't help myself. The questions began pouring out of me. "Stop it," she replied, still not looking at me. "He asked me if I was going to the ball. I told him I wasn't going, but then he asked if I would go, and that he would very much like to see me there." "Oh, so that's why you're going," I said. She finally looked up at me, pleading with me to stop. "I'm sorry. I'm glad you're going," I told her. At last, all the dresses had been handed out, and we closed the trunk and started to lift it onto the cart. Ella climbed onto the front and took up the reins. "I guess I'll see you at the ball then," she said. "I look forward to it," I told her with a smile. Then she lifted the reins and the horse took off. She waved when she went around the corner. My heart soared. I was going to the ball. The next 3 days were insanely busy. After I and every other girl in the village received a dress from Ella, we decided to all go to the ball. This then meant that there was preparations that had to be made, and more importantly for me, dresses to adjust. Ella was very kind to give us the dresses, but didn't necessarily take into account that the village girls were a little thinner than Lady Anna. We haven't always had 3 meals a day all our lives. My reputation as a half-decent seamstress had gone around the village, and so many of the girls came to the cottage to ask me to fit the dresses to their shape. I spent 3 days constantly sewing. I used the time to start teaching Clara how to take in clothes and sew invisible stitches. She was a surprisingly quick learner, and between us, we adjusted a grand total of 24 dresses. Those 3 days, the cottage was full of silk, velvet, chiffon, lace, and organza gowns. We had to move Gwen out of our room to make space for the table. We relocated mine and Clara's room to keep the gowns out of the reach of the boys and the dirt that seemed to follow them everywhere. Father joked about making the girls pay for my services. I dismissed this idea. My needlework wasn't all that good, and there was no way any of these families could afford to pay me anything. I knew how happy the girls were just to be given a chance to go to the ball, and I didn't want to take that away from them, over the sake of a few measly pennies. With the extra help, I even found time to do a little embroidery on my own dress. I added a border of lilies to the bottom of the chiffon. I had always loved those flowers, and had picked some the day before to put into my hair, so it seemed appropriate. The day of the ball arrived, and the excitement in the air was palpable. Myself and Clara had finished sewing the night before, so I took a well-needed break from it all that morning. I walked into the woods, unaware of what was about to happen.